Welcome to the Sent by Him podcast with your hosts, Monica Oliveira and Alicia Mena.
Welcome back to the Sent by Him podcast. Now you're going to have two claps. We enjoyed our time with you guys so much that we are so grateful that you guys agreed to spend a little bit of extra time with us for a second episode so that we can cover a few more questions that actually came up during our conversation. I felt were really, really good.
Yeah. One of the questions was, and either of you can speak to it. I have an opinion too. I'm sure you do too. Do you think that there is the one person for you?
Oh, that's right. We did say that.
Or do you want to start off with the other question first?
No. I think, we can continue on with that conversation. It was a good conversation. Or soulmates.
I do not subscribe to that theory. I don't think, because you have to think with a point like that, you have to think to the antithesis of it also, which is, if there is only one person for you, does that mean everybody else is wrong? That's hard to describe. What are the chances? And I think we live so inside little microcosms in this world anyways. Most people don't travel outside of their own city. You know what I'm saying? Like, they really don't get out there and see a broad spectrum of what's really out there anyways. So to be honest, like, what's the likelihood if you have a soulmate and that they're going to be in Hialeah with you, or they're going to be, this and that with you? It's like, if you have a soulmate, what if they're all the way in England? And then it's like, what's the chances of you ever meeting that person? And blah, blah, blah. I don't think there's any biblical backing for it anyways.
It is antithetical, I think, in that sense. Yeah.
So I'm saying, I don't think the Bible backs that up at all. And I think, the Bible does speak to how we're supposed to treat each other, which means we're supposed to, in a sense, deal with each other, which also leads to the fact that we're going to be different. So soulmates also leads to the fact that we're so alike. Oh my God, you're like everything I wanted.
We're so alike.
I don't think that exists. I really don't think that exists. I think when two people love each other enough, they compromise on what's important, even because it's more, whatever you're talking about, like, let's say communication, that's bigger than just my ego. It's bigger than that. So I think those are things that need to be talked about. I don't think there is a soulmate per se.
Yeah, I gotta agree with that. Even though, going back to our last conversation, that when I said I met Alicia and I knew she was gonna be my wife, right? I don't think that there is the one person that you are destined to end up with. And I'll give you an example in my own life, right? So, and she's heard this story before. So I met Alicia and I knew instantly, this is my wife, right? This is the one I'm going to marry. But years before I had met her at the church that I grew up in, I remember I was on the praise and worship team, and I was on the altar singing, and I'm looking out. This was like, we had already done the worship set, and so we're kind of settling down. They're doing the offering and stuff, so I'm still, we do a little song to collect the offering and stuff, and so we're in like that period where the pastor was just explaining what the offering is and all that stuff. And there was a girl that walked into the church, and I saw her, and there was something in me that was just like, I'm gonna marry that girl. Mm-hmm. It was crazy. The craziest part is, come to find out, after that service, my mom was like, yo, I saw this girl today, and something in me was just like, that's your wife. And we described it the same girl.
That's
it was
so
crazy.
Weird.
It was wild. Mm. And I never saw her again in my life. I saw her when she walked into the church. I never saw her again. Right? No idea. And then fast forward a few years later, and I meet Alicia, and it was like, this is who I'm going to marry. So what I believe is that there's people that they're, like women, or for you guys men, that you guys will meet each other, and it's something that God will bless, right? And like that God blesses and sanctions that relationship. I said, yes, go ahead. And so that's what I think, right? Because there's no way that, you know, that my experience is like, I don't know.
Yeah. No.
It was crazy though. It was, oh my God. I was like, you did what?
What are the odds?
Yeah.
What are the odds?
So one of my pet peeves with I'm going to say Western Christianity is I feel I'm not going to deny the existence of prophets or prophetic word or anything like that. I'm not going to deny that. First thing, I think it's grossly misused. And there's some people trying to tap into the gift that isn't necessarily for them. But that isn't for everybody. But what I will say is I wish people would word things different, right? So when if you feel an inkling from God from something, I wish it would have, like, because I've had many prophetic words spoken over me, and I think Christianity, Western Christianity, speaks in finalities. So they're like, this is the final, like, that's your wife. For, like, to your point, like, oh, I saw that girl and that's your wife. I wish the wording would have been, yo, I got an inkling that girl could be your wife.
Right.
Or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
That's
I
a
wish
really
we
good way to
could
put it.
word things different,
Yeah.
because if we would word it different, it's like, yo, that could just possibly be a wife. And that's totally true. And it's like, there was an inkling for that. But as soon as you say that's not your wife, yo, I mean, you didn't marry her.
Right.
So it's like, yo, and then we start getting into false prophets and all that stuff. And it's like, it wasn't even necessarily a false prophet. It was just said wrong.
Right.
So I wish we
Right.
could say things the right way and I mean, the Bible says test the prophets.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're supposed to test everybody.
Yeah, you're supposed to test the word.
Yes,
Yeah.
and just because somebody does have a false saying doesn't even mean they're a false prophet. But that's a whole other topic. But I just wish people would word things different.
I'll give you an example of that. So, about the false saying, not making them necessarily a false prophet. Right. So, I don't remember the amount of months before I met Alicia, but at the church that I was at the time, there was an invited prophet that came, right? And so one thing that she did was she was like, she wanted to pray over the single people or something like that. I don't remember exactly. And mind you, like I said, I didn't want to get married until I was like 40, so I was just sitting there, I don't know, mutilating my hands. I'm not raising my hand for this foolishness. And I sat there.
Get foolishness.
And so my mom was on one side of me, and I had a buddy on my other side. And they start like nudging, right? And I'm like, yo, y'all gotta leave me alone, because I ain't nobody over here.
I don't need prayer for this right now.
Yeah,
right?
it's that thing. Yeah,
I'll save it for later, God. I don't need it right now.
And so the ladies on the altar, she obviously sees this little commotion going off on the side, and then so she just flat out calls me out, and I was like, "Dang, guys, you see what you did?
Yeah.
Now I gotta go up."
And I don't agree with that in the first place.
And so, wait,
continue.
So she prophesied that I would be meeting my wife soon, and stuff, and so. I accepted it. I was like, it is what it is. And then, like a few months later, it wasn't any more than, honestly, I don't think it was longer than 6 months, to be honest. And I met Alicia.
I think you said it was like 3.
It might have been 3 months.
Yeah.
Before,
Something.
and so that word came true, right? But at the same token that she was giving me that word, I remember I was like, all right, cool, thank you for the word. I'm walking back to my seat, and she goes, I was in a Spanish church, right? So a lot of people there were Colombian and stuff, and the prophet goes, and she's going to be Colombian too, right? And I'm a man of God. I respect the house, and I respect authority, but there was something in me, and I turned.
It just didn't sit right.
And I'll tell you how not right it sat. So I'm walking back to my seat, and I turned around, and in front of the congregation, in front of my mother, in front of the pastors of the house, I looked up at this prophet, and I said, no. When I tell you that my mother was mortified, I mean, embarrassed.
I have a very similar story.
And I didn't do it out of malice or anything. I was just like, I know, I was like, I dated a few Colombians, and I was like, nah. Nothing against Colombians, all right? But my wife is Puerto Rican. I'm Puerto Rican. Just, you keep it in the
It's
in
like
the
it's when you have alike cultures.
Yeah.
There's less. There's a smaller disparity. There's like
Right.
less things that you have to different from each other. It's
Right,
just-
right.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so,
Yeah.
so I do this,
Yeah.
and I could tell it was a little embarrassing, and she was like, "All right, however God wants to give it to you," and I was like, "All right,
I'll take that.
I'll take it."
Right.
But I like I said, I respect order in the house and God and all that, the church and pastors, and that just came out of me like no, like, matter of fact, no. Like I'll accept them. I'm gonna meet my wife soon, but she's not gonna be Colombian.
And I'm listening to you guys, and I kind of want to combine both of them. And I don't know if this is, I think it's biblical, but please correct me if I'm off from where I need to be. But it's a combination of both. There could be somebody that very well could be in the prophetic. This could be their gift.
Mm-hmm.
They could be giving you, a prophecy and saying, hey, look, you are going to meet your wife within the next 3 months.
She didn't give me a timeline, but yeah.
Or within the next, soon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But we have to also add into the mix free will.
Mm-hmm.
You could very well meet her. She could very well not like you. She could very well not be responsive. You could have met her and she could have become, but I feel like sometimes you're kind of removing the free will when you verbiage, and when you say it the wrong way. So it's you kind of have to tread softly when you say things like that. I think. What was your experience like?
You talking about my embarrassing experience?
Yeah.
Like that? So it was a similar situation. Like I said, I was saved in a very over emotionalized church. And that, man, I don't even think I told you this story before. Praise God. So they called everybody to the front. They wanted to pray for everybody. It was a prophet that came in very similar situation from like Argentina or something like that. Came in, she started laying hands on everybody, right? And all I remember, because I was actually very deep in prayer when I was up there, because her word was actually really dope. Her word, because she wasn't speaking in the prophetic when she was preaching. She was just preaching. I was like, okay, this is dope. Then when she got into the prophetic and stuff like that, it just started to get really weird. And she literally, like, it was one of those grab your heads or whatnot. And she grabbed my head, but it was one of those jerking situations, right? And I'm like, yo, chica, first thing, if I'm gonna fall on my own. You don't need the push, right? But this shit, like, I felt like she wouldn't get her hand off of me until I fell. Mm-hmm. And she did it like 7 times, my guy. I'm talking about like I had a neck cramp by the end of the night. She see me just jerking like this, and everything, and of course, Spanish people, Santos, I mean, no, I'm like, yo, chica, and we're like that, and I'm just jerking.
She's giving you whiplash.
Yo, by the 7th time, so this is where I got it, because my flesh came out. I grabbed her hand and took it off, and I walked away.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's done that before. Like, I was like, yo, by the 7th time, I'm good. So, I was like, it's in my spirit, boo-boo. So I grabbed her hand, I put it off, and I walked away, and you hear everybody in the back of the church. I was like, bro, I'm like, you can't force the Holy Spirit on me.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so there's some of these times where it just gets weird, man. And I wish we could let it be more organic and things just happen like that.
And so, and I'll say this, and I think you'll agree, is we're not speaking against the prophetic.
No.
We fully believe in the
absolutely.
prophetic.
There is a gift of the prophetic.
I'm
Absolutely.
not against
Definitely.
But you, the Bible tells you to test the
Exactly.
word.
Right.
Exactly.
And a prophetic word should be confirming something that God has already told you in private.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
This shouldn't be like some mysterious thing.
Right. And so, like, for example, Um, so in my heart, I knew that Alicia was going to be my wife when we met, right? But we still prayed about it. Like, God, give us a confirmation. Like, this is what I feel,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
But we need you to confirm it.
Yeah.
And so God actually confirmed it like 3 different times.
Like 3-4 different
right?
times.
So I remember the church that we're at, they the pastor was preaching and he said, stop asking God for the answer he's already given you. And so I remember.
Remember we talked about that yesterday?
Yeah.
It's
so,
like once God gives you the answer,
Yeah,
stop
exactly.
asking him to confirm it
So-
over and over again. He's
so
spoken
here's the
once.
thing, and here's
Yeah.
here's where, and I want to tell you guys too, is this is where obedience comes in, right?
Yeah.
Because
Right.
so we were looking for this answer, and so right after that service, I was like, okay, God, I asked,
Where's
my answer, right? So, and then at that time, like I said, we were dating, so we're kind of going back and forth between our churches.
Mhm.
And so we went to my church that next week, and one of the ladies came up to me. She was part of the worship team, and I have a good relationship with her and her husband. And so she comes up to me and Alicia, or maybe just me, I can't remember. But I don't remember. But she came up to me and she said, God gave me a word for you 2 weeks ago, and it's to tell you that this is the woman that I've set aside for you. And I'm like, dope. And it was just literally like right after, like I'd asked, or a few days of asking God, I was like, okay, God, where's my answer? And so he'd given the answer. The delivery was just a little delayed,
Right.
because someone, and not through her own fault. Like, I get that giving somebody a word like that, that
That's
has a
heavy.
weight to it. Like that you're changing the course of somebody's life. So when you're delivering a word, you got to be sure that God's the one that's sending you out to do it. So I respect that, but I also respect her obedience. And even though it was I think it was like 2 weeks later when she told me.
I think she said that the day she saw me, the same thing, she knew I was going to be his wife. Like,
Wow.
that's
And
Pedro's
then-
wife.
So that happened, and then I remember for Alicia, one of her big things was that the man I marry is going to be the one that my parents accept. And like I said, I love her parents, and we've got a fantastic relationship. They did accept me, so for her, that was her confirmation. Right. There was another time when we were at prayer at my church, and Alicia was like, God, if this is a man for me, then he'll come up and he'll start praying for me and over me right now. And like seconds later, like I came up and I put my arm around her and I just started praying over her, right? And then there was so it was 4 times then.
I was saying, I think it was like 5
And there was
different
another
confirmations.
time that we were in church at my church. Man,
This was one of the first times.
Yeah.
That was one of the
3 of the 4
first
happened at my church.
One of the first confirmations we got. So when you're about to tell me.
And from one of the prophets of the house called my mom up, or no, I think my mom was already up at the altar during like worship. But
it was
she
a
called
prayer night.
She called Alicia up, and I was like, oh, you're in trouble.
Right? I was like, God, what did I do?
And so she comes up and she tells my mom that she puts Alicia next to my mom, and she tells my mom, she's like, this is your daughter. Right? And there's a little bit more said, but
Yeah, but that was the idea.
That was the gist of it. Yeah.
This is your daughter. And so we tested the word, right? The belief.
Yeah.
And God confirmed it, several times.
Now that you're saying this and you guys are going back like through memory lane and all that stuff, like how does taking time to think about these things and the history and the confirmation, how does that strengthen your marriage today?
That's so good. That's so good.
Because I feel like sometimes we let life happen and we kind of forget about those first things and like all those details, and we get so caught up in we've got to pay the car and we got to like go to work and in the day-to-day, right? Yeah. How does like now like you guys like recounting those moments like make you stronger in your marriage?
It
Sorry to put you there.
No,
I know
no,
that wasn't
no.
even
No,
part of like the
it
conversation.
wasn't. But it's funny because I wanted to say it in the last podcast and I didn't have a chance to, but it's okay because I got my chance then. But Sean had shared, he was being super candid. He shared that divorce had crossed his mind before. I think him and I have had, I think, at least one heated conversation to where the divorce word came up. Not as like, are we going to get divorced? No, it's like, are you thinking of divorcing me? Something along those lines. I can't remember. We were upset. It happened.
Yeah.
And it's crossed my mind before. Like, another man's going to treat you the way you deserve. Another man's going to do this. Another man's going to do that. And is coming back to this. It just reassures the fact that God called me to him and vice versa. Because another woman will not put up with him. And vice versa. I'm a whole lot too. You know? But it's just to know that God has your back in this decision, that what Pedro said is life-changing. Is so amazing.
Yeah.
Because now when I'm mad, I'm like, Jesus, I know you will take care of this because I can't.
And I think that's where, like, if God put it together, God can sustain it.
Right, exactly.
I feel like a lot of people, a lot of times people rush into relationships, and then they want God to come in after the fact. Not that he can't, because, you know, God can do anything.
Right.
But many times we don't ask for his blessing, his guidance. We don't take him into account in our decision, and then we want all these good things in the middle of it, and we're like, well, we didn't take into account, you know, his blessing before, so are we really that foolish to think that this is going to be blessed now?
Right.
Which, not to say it can't be, because a lot of people come to Christ, maybe as married couples, maybe they come to a deeper understanding of Jesus, of marriage, of everything after the fact.
But it shouldn't be the standard.
But it shouldn't be, it should not be the standard. Agreed.
I want to see if Peter has anything to say to what you asked.
I mean, it just reminds me that God is a part of all of it, you know, and like you said, what God, you said something about like what God brings together,
and no man
can break it.
No man can break it.
And our relationship started on a conversation on God. You know what I mean? And that was the whole catalyst to it, really, because like she said, so we met talking about something about work,
right?
And like her, I didn't really pay her no mind, and we kind of got reintroduced to each other, which is really funny when you think about it, because first we met like in a conversation about work, so something really, you know, mundane or whatever, and then, but the second time we met, the introduction was, this is Pedro, and he leads worship at his church, and that was the interest.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, he sings, or he worships. Not, you know.
Yeah.
He worships.
There's a difference.
You know. And that's what sparked the conversation. So I can honestly tell you that our relationship didn't start because superficially. It's not because I found her pretty and she found me attractive. It literally started because, oh, you like God? You know?
You love God? I love God too. Right.
And so for 1,000%, that's the foundation of our relationship. And the thoughts come, and it's like, it would be so much easier if I was single, like, not to worry about nobody.
That's what I hate. So this is what I hate about our sinful nature as people. We could have 100 good experiences throughout a day, but the one bad experience in the day define the day. You know what I'm saying? And it's I
Yeah.
think that's part of our sinful nature as people. Like
We focus on the bad.
we gravitate to the negative.
Yeah.
And it sucks, man. It's well, all right. We don't gravitate to the negative. The negative is more memorable in
Yeah.
our mind, which is a trip to me. So I attribute it to sin. That is all part of the fall because it's like we ignore how many blessings we have during the day because something interrupted it. And one of the things that I really like to do is I like to, and I tell her all the time, I'm like, you need to understand, we need to attribute our suffering to real suffering.
Yeah.
I think a great way to go about moving forward in any relationship is knowing what real persecution is. We think what's going on in the school system in America is persecution. That's nothing compared to what's happening in other countries and stuff
Right.
like that.
What's that guy?
Horton.
Horton.
R.A. Horton. Yeah. Yeah.
D.A. Horton.
From the conference yesterday, he was describing real
suffering.
Real
suffering,
suffering,
real
real
persecution.
persecution.
Definitely.
And I remember sitting there going, "Yo, I don't ever want to experience that."
Right.
You know, and this is we're kind of getting away from the whole marriage topic, but
Right.
you know, I remember just thinking, I said, I don't want that kind of persecution. You know, like I'm not.
But here's the thing. I think knowing what real persecution is needs to get us prepared because as comfortable as we are right now in Western Christianity, it could get that bad.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It really could get that bad one day, and I think we need to prepare our hearts because if we get hot over not having our Starbucks in the morning, how are we going to feel when there's tanks rolling down our street saying, come out or we'll blow up your house because you profess Christ? Like, crap could get serious. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that story that D.A. Horner talked about where Felicitas, I think was her name, and talking about that they murdered her 7 kids in front of her one by one, and then asking her between each one, do you still profess Christ? Yo, by like kid, by kid 1, you're already feeling some type of way, but by kid 3 or 4, I'm sure she's even doubting herself. Like, am I an idiot? Am I stupid? Like, what's going? Like, can you imagine? And then they didn't kill her until 4 months after.
Right.
So the post trauma of seeing all your 7 kids die, and then they leave you alive to deal with it. Oh my God! Like.
And then they ask you again.
And then they ask you again right before they kill her.
Yeah.
So it's like, but this is what I'm talking about. We need to know what real suffering is. And that to me is the epitome of suffering, seeing your 7 kids die in front of you.
I don't want to get like too in there, but we already know what it's like for the government to tell you can't go to church.
Right.
Right.
It happened during COVID.
Right.
And I'm, like I said, I'm not gonna, that's a whole different, but we've already seen what a shutdown will do.
Right.
It'll stop you.
Right. And that's why I think we need to learn to pivot. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, there's a lot of churches that meet just at their houses. A lot of churches, I mean, dude, in China, they meet underground. They do all these things. And I mean, we really need to get away from. So this is what I'm talking about. Western Christianity is spoiled.
100%.
We are a very spoiled culture. And it's like, oh man, the AC broke in church. I don't really want to show up today. It's like, did the AC being off affect the word? Did it do anything to the power of Christ?
Do you think, and not to veer off, actually, I love this subject. We didn't plan on this, but I love it.
Sorry.
No. But it's because I do want to ask, do you think that not being able to have a peaceful home with your spouse, or better said, do you think that having a peaceful home with your spouse can prepare you for something like this, or the contrary?
Can you explain that?
Can I expound? Okay.
Because not too sure what the question is.
So you mentioned, we complain about, maybe first world problems that we were talking about last night, like, our Starbucks or this or that. Sometimes with our spouses, we disagree on the silliest things. In all honesty, first world problems. Like, honestly, it's, but why did you leave the light on, or did you not turn off the candle last night, or
how many times have I told you?
How many times have I told you that you have to clean the lint off of the dryer, Monica? Oh no, that wasn't for me. I was just for my. Okay, so anyways,
it's working, Jesus.
It is working. I actually remember now, but like, I'm saying, like, we focus, I think, sometimes on the small things versus becoming stronger at home together, overlooking these small things and focusing how we can be stronger in our faith together, right? With God, so that we can face real things, so that we can
Okay.
face real problems.
I think so. I think I know what your question is.
Yeah.
And this is a perspective I've always thought of, but I've never really heard. And you guys can totally correct me if I'm wrong. But it's
Yeah.
like I think that there's so much fleshing out from the marriage of things that can happen when there is if there's disturbance between me and you, it fleshes itself out into
Everywhere.
so many ways,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And the reason that happens is because the Bible calls us to oneness.
Mm.
So there, in a sense, you are arguing with yourself. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you're no longer, and I think we need to look at it as that, because if I see it as I'm arguing with my wife, then it puts us at odds.
Mhm.
If I figure I'm arguing with myself, that's insanity. I shouldn't be doing that. I shouldn't be
Right.
arguing with myself because we are one. So if we can understand the oneness within us, I think that would save us from a whole lot of stuff and not be so dramatic.
I love that
responsive.
perspective.
One of the things I told Alicia right when we got married
Mhm.
is that it'll never be me against you, right?
Yes.
It's you and me against the problem,
Biggest facts.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we
And-
said to, yeah.
And you know, we're human, we're not perfect, so we still have little,
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. It's gonna happen. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we apologize, right? And like, look, I understand that X, Y, Z, and we come back together,
Yeah.
right? Realizing that there's no problem between us.
Right.
There's something external,
Mhm.
Right.
that
That's
is
affecting.
causing this
Yeah.
this pressure, right? Because like you said, we are one,
Yeah.
right? And so, yeah, so it'll never be me against her
Mhm.
or you against Monica,
It shouldn't be.
or whatever
Yeah.
married couple is listening to this. It'll never be the husband against the wife. It'll never be that. I promise you.
Right.
Right.
It's you two together against whatever obstacle that is, right? Keep Christ in the center.
Mhm.
Keep God as your foundation, right? And it'll make it that much easier
Yeah.
to, because I'm not saying you won't have issues, but it'll make it that much easier to overcome those problems,
Right.
especially when you take a step back to realize what's going on here. Why are we? Why is there friction between us right now? Why are we on different pages,
Mhm.
right? And then so you take a step back and you look at the situation, and then you can come back to it together to overcome that.
It's so good when you look at it from that vantage point, but do you think that the times that you have argued, or vice versa, this goes for both of you, do you feel that the times that you have argued is because some sort of worldly perspective has seeped into that situation and you guys have lost focus? This is like literally a question for all of us. You guys have lost focus of what the true problem is versus this is something that we have to tackle together against the problem. Because a lot of times we have to unlearn, like you have mentioned in the last, like the perspectives of the world, and go back to the basics, like the word, you know? So to answer that question, I see you smirking, so I want to.
Because, okay, at least for me, but I want to segue into that point because I know we got to get there. But for me, it's the exact opposite. Me and you argue most of the time because I'm holding you to biblical standards.
Woo!
So it isn't, but it takes two to argue. But it does because it's like you're very reactive towards me, but then that pisses me off.
No, I'm not.
Towards you. Right? 3 different angles. Praise Jesus. All right, so it's just but for
the
me,
thing is that you. No, I'm just kidding. Go.
interruption happens all the time too. Anyway, But it's for me it's the opposite in that. But I do believe there was a lot of things I did need to unlearn about mainstream culture, a whole lot, because that's what's popular right now. And me being in music, it's all about sex, drugs, and money. So those were three things that I needed to take off of my heart list before I could pursue music in any real way. So that's just a little bit into that. But yeah, if you want to tackle.
I mean, I agree with what you said. You know, and it's like, for me, it's just, we argue over first world problems, and because you get, you have your way of like doing things, right? The way you're accustomed to, and now you're married, so you've got somebody who does things just a little differently. There's nothing wrong with that. Nobody's wrong. You just do things differently.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And now you're like, no, but why are you doing it this way? Right? And he's like, well, because XYZ. And I guess that makes sense. But isn't it easier? And then you say your way.
Mm-hmm.
And then they can say, oh, yeah, but what about this? And so I think it's just first world problems, to be honest.
Simple, stupid example. The way we wash laundry. He used to separate every single color. I said, I'm not doing 5 loads of laundry.
Right, you got your blacks,
you got your
reds,
whites, and you got your darks.
Blues, your greens, you know.
You separated
by
color?
Huh?
You separated by color?
I did.
I
did. And then, right, he's just like, no, man. You got your blacks and your darks. You got your whites. Those for sure you can definitely wash them on their own.
Right.
And then you got like, I don't even know what that third
Just
color
the mix
is.
of
Bedding, or like, you know, that
right,
stuff goes
exactly.
separate.
You separate your bedding. You separate your towels.
Why are you making it so complicated, bro?
Because for me, it's color coordination.
Is that your closet is too?
It's not wrong.
No, absolutely not.
No.
It's not wrong. It's just
I'm just extra steps, okay?
Yep.
And
right, and like 10 extra loads of laundry.
But here's where I think the complication comes into play. When you have a certain way of doing things, but then you expect the partner to adapt that, like, and vice versa.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? So I think that's where we get into bad territory, when we expect the other person to adapt our way of thinking.
so I'll go back to the laundry example, right? Because she was like, no, just do this. It's so much easier. And I'm like, you're not about to ruin my clothes. All right?
My greens are staying green.
My greens are staying green. My reds are not going to bleed into another. No, we're not doing this. Okay?
What is that?
That was a hair clip that Chanel had put in my hoodie
that's
earlier,
so funny.
and I told her to take it out. She didn't take it out.
That's
funny.
funny.
Anyway,
Why don't you just say the truth? You had a hair clip on your hair.
for all this?
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's like that's a perfect example of expecting. And I was like, no, you're not about to ruin my clothes. You're going to adopt the way that I do things. Right? And then
Who washes?
we both do.
Yeah, we both do.
And
Now
then-
so that's another thing that I wanted to kind of go back to what you were saying is setting expectations for your partner. When I married Pedro, his mom used to wash and fold his laundry. And I told him, I was like, I love you, but I'm not doing that.
Right.
We can both wash clothes. We can both wash dishes. We can both clean the floor. We can both do everything that needs to be done in the house. And I think this goes back real quick to the other question that we had to kind of answer, which was, and I'll restate it. It says the role, or what is the role that the man should play in a marriage, as well as the wife or the woman. I was very clear with Pedro from day one. You know, I'm not with this gender roles like, oh, I'm gonna cook and clean.
But
and
at the end of the day, I don't expect her to go outside and mow the lawn.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Unless she wants to.
However, if I needed to, I would do it.
Right.
Because I know how to do
But
it.
there is still stuff that you expect, like the man to take care of. Like I said, like mowing the lawn,
Right.
wash your car,
Take out the trash.
take out the trash. Like that stuff that just the man does. I mean, it's simple stuff.
Right.
I'm not saying that that's what you gotta do.
Right.
And
but yet, if there's days that there's trash in the room, I'll pick it up, and take it out.
Because
You
that's
know,
what I would say. I would say it is all right. So
because that's like minimal stuff. Like it's not
tread lightly because you and I have a lot of conversations about
No,
this.
no, no, and I do. I want to tread lightly. It's just I
Say
don't.
how it is. Come on, say
No,
how it
listen.
is. It's what
No,
we're
it's
here
nothing
for.
bad. It's nothing bad.
No, I'm slow to say this is the man's job, this is the woman's job. I'm just slow to assign roles. It's like, to me, whoever's more fit for the position, right?
Okay.
Like, let's say I am a better nurturer than her for whatever reason, even though that is not the case in our marriage. Let's say for whatever reason I'm the better nurturer. Then it's like, okay, maybe I should talk to the kids in disciplinary situations because I can give them more of the nurturing role instead of just bashing them or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, just whoever is more fit for the role, that's how I kind of see it as. And bro, let's just say, but matter of fact, speaking to reality, we have actually talked about mowing the lawn. Mm-hmm. She has actually told me out of her lips, you get me a John Deere tractor that I can sit on and I'll mow the grass. I'm like, cool. So it's like, I don't care about really assigning roles. Like, if she's down to do that, she might love the sun. Or let's say I got like, just, I can't be in the sun for long or blah, blah, whoever. So I'm less about assigning roles and more who's fit for the position.
Now, that's all like chores and stuff. But at the end of the day, I do think that the man is the provider, the man is the protector, the man is the head of the household. Right. That's stuff that I won't compromise on.
Well, that's
wait. This is really good. We're really getting into the meat and the potatoes here on the gravy. Oh my goodness. Okay.
We got a biblical household.
So I have this question, and this is not. I asked this question because me and Sean like debate on this like often. We don't argue. It's not an argument, and it's not a problem either. It's just, I guess, like a difference of opinion, right? Many a times, the arrangement pretty much right now that Sean and I have is we both work, we both provide for the house, we kind of pay everything 50-50. It kind of works out for us that way, and it just works out like financially. However, many times the topic has come up, and not necessarily in an argument, but just like in conversation. Do you think that the scriptures tell us or tell men to provide not only spiritually but financially for the household solely, or is it only spiritually?
No, so I think when you provide, this is a whole. You have to have a holistic picture of it, because like right now it's just Alicia and I. We don't have kids, right?
Right.
So I provide for her. I need to provide for her, so she feels safe. So I've got to financially, okay. I have to provide for her emotionally, okay, and I also have to provide for her spiritually.
Yeah.
Right. And we're working on all of those things. Like, we're not perfect. And so I'm not just I got to work 9 to 5. I come home. I've done my job to provide. No, that's not it at all. Like, there's still so much intangible that I have to do.
Yeah.
You know, as the head of my household.
Yeah.
And it'll be even. And if I don't get it down right now, when we have kids, it's gonna be super hard. Because I don't know. Like for with Alicia, I have to learn how to lead her spiritually and emotionally and stuff like that, provide for her in those senses. And this is somebody that can fully communicate to me and express to me what they're feeling and what they're going through and what they need, right? This is setting us up for the future, for when we have kids, right? Because I need to be able to do that. So this is like easy mode, right? Because when it comes down to a kid as the provider for all of these things, so the financial part and the security and the house, that's all physical, tangible, easy. You can check that box, right? But when it comes to the emotional and the spiritual, it's a lot harder, because this kid, you know, they can't express themselves the way an adult can, right? And so I've got to be able to take that and lead this child, right, in a healthy way and provide for them.
So you feel like not training, That's exactly what it is. But do you feel like you providing for Alicia pre-kids is you being in training mode for when you actually have
I do.
bigger family?
I do,
Yeah.
100%.
That's cool.
Because, like, and that's why that's why there's a progression to things, right? So first, you are single, right?
Yeah.
Singleness is a gift, okay?
It is.
And I hope that everybody watching this realizes singleness is a gift.
Yeah.
Because you can do what you want,
Right.
You got you to respond to,
Mhm.
right? You and God,
That's
right? And honor your parents, okay? But it's you singular, right? And when you get married, now you complicate it a little bit. You've got this extra person that you've got to
Care for.
be with, care for, right?
Yeah.
And but that's the progression. So first you're single,
Right.
then you're married, and God willing, you have kids,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's a progression to
Yeah.
this. There's an order. That's why if you invert this stuff, if you go from singleness to fatherhood to marriage, right, you're throwing it all out of balance. And
Yeah.
God is a God of order,
Yeah.
right? And so it's really important, like for as a Christian, right, to follow that progression, because all of it is training for you in every step as you go forward.
There's a reason why God sets it in order that way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I look at my father, like we talked about in the last episode. So his dad really wasn't around all that much. He's mended that relationship. They got a great relationship now. But my dad had to basically learn how to be a man on his own. And my dad was a fantastic father to me. But you think it's like, how much?
Yeah.
I'm sure he asked himself, like, how much farther along would I be if I had a father figure in my life?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I do,
Because it threw off the balance.
right?
It threw off the progression.
And so there's an order to it. So, and then that next step after you do have kids, then you'll become a grandfather, and then now it'll be even more complex. But it goes on. There's an order to these things, and so I do think that single me and learning how to lead myself was important before I met Elise. Like, I'm so comfortable with myself, 100%. And she'll tell you, like, I'm like, if it's just me, I'm fine, right?
Yeah.
Now it's us, and so I'm learning, because we're only like a few years into marriage, so we're still learning.
You're still babies in
yeah,
marriage,
exactly.
yeah.
And so learning how to lead her, and then yes, absolutely. When the kids come along, then it will just add another level. But this is all training right now that we have to get down before we move on to that next thing.
I love that.
How do you see provision in marriage from a man?
So to piggyback off of what he said, I love the progression analogy. I love that, by the way. So the progression analogy, and the only thing I would add onto that is the complementarianism aspect. So there should be a progression to things, but also defining the role of the man and the woman. So I am supposed to complement you as you are, and you're supposed to complement me in your role, but roles are defined. We have definitive roles in this. So when we have definitive roles, let me tread soft. I'll tread soft. Because I don't want to offend anybody, but I do call it archaic, call it old school, call it whatever. But I do believe in old school way of thinking too.
Okay.
And the thing is, so here's my issue. I believe our society nowadays is not a biblical society, so it throws off when we want to do things biblically sound in the household, but the society we live in doesn't have the foundation that we need to progress in a certain way.
It's very countercultural.
Right?
Yeah.
So I would be the happiest guy to be the only one working in the household and you staying at home all day with the kids, because I feel like that's how it's supposed to be.
Noted.
Amen. 3 different angles. Praise God. Because I would love it that way.
Yeah.
I would love it. I was the main provider, because I think it is an extreme disservice to the kids to send them to school for 8 hours a day, then come back, and the only time we spend with them is to do homework. That's still school. You know what I'm saying? And then we barely get time to actually spend with them, and then we're tired from our day at work. So there's so many things that the society, but we both have to work just to afford Miami rent, to afford Miami grocery prices.
Florida's expensive, y'all.
Florida's dumb expensive. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think facts. No, to be honest, this is nationwide because Cali's worse than us. So it's like, I think if the society was set up in a different way, that we wouldn't have to be so dependent on money, dependent on everything. I mean, people before, so let's think biblical times. People used to just tend to their field or tend to their crops or tend to their cattle and stuff like that, and they would sell that off. So it was like living was a part of working.
There was a lot of self-sustainability, though.
And it was cohesive with each other. And then what would the parents do? Instead of sending their kids to school, the kids would be out working with the parents. So the kids would be out there, hey, yo, grab that, la, 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 do this, la, 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 la. And it's this constant cohesiveness, this constant being around each other. But the man would do most of the, let's say, heavy lifting, and the woman would do more of the nurturing.
How was the heavy lifting?
Well, I can't see it over here. But I mean, I hope that all makes sense. Like, I think men are wired to do more of the heavy lifting, more of the grunt work in a sense. And that's also part of the fall of Adam too. You will by the sweat of your brow. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is also part of the fall. So, but I believe that's how men are wired. It's part of the fall, and work will become toilsome. That's what he says. Work. So before, Adam used to work in the garden. It just wasn't toilsome. Now it's toilsome because of the fall of man. And then women are naturally inclined to be nurturers and to be amazing with the kids. But we send them off to schools where they're no longer nurtured. They're no longer taken care of like that. And I really wish we could homeschool. I wish we could provide. So again, I wish the society was set up different so that we could operate in biblical principles.
And because you both kind of spoke to the provision part, right? So that basically would be how you view the correct role of the man in the house as a married man, basically. Now, for women, what was your expectation when you got married of your wife? And I heard the laundry story. What was your expectation of the woman in the house? And have you had to change that perspective since you got married?
I haven't this might sound bad or whatever, but I had very little expectations of you. I had very little, and it was just this sounds really bad. It sounds really bad, right?
I love that you're saying this because I got my own 2 cents.
But what you need to ask him. Right. You need to ask him, what did I tell you one time when we were just talking?
Oh, that she said the same thing to me.
I said the same thing.
My expectations of you are actually pretty low, just because. But the reasoning behind it.
Yeah, there's a reason behind it.
The reason is because I need you to love God above all. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all else will align itself. Everything else will just. I think everything fleshes itself out So if we can come together as the oneness, and both seek together the kingdom of God, I think everything else will flesh itself out eventually, and it won't be perfect, it won't be spotless, it won't be clean, or Christ wipes us clean without blemish, but we ain't in heaven yet. But I just wish, does that make sense?
It does, but I think you're waiting.
Talk to me.
Yeah. Like, I know you didn't have a lot of expectations, but like, for example, like I cook and I clean, and we do the things. Did you have that expectation going into the marriage, both of you? Like, the wife should be the one to do this. Like, is that what you saw in your mom or whatever? And you're like, well, I know that my wife should be the one to do this.
I mean, so even to that point, like my uncle, he's a chef, right? He's the one who cooks all the time at the house and stuff like that. Again, that's why I'm not with the assigning roles. It's like whoever is more fit for the position,
Gotcha.
do that. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? So he's a chef. It's like, yo, it would be redonkulous
I
for the
think-
other person to cook.
I
This
think
guy
you're-
is like the guy.
I'm picturing Gordon Ramsay going
You
home.
feel me, right? It's like, bruh.
No, I
And
mean,
he's cooking.
and I just want to tell you, you are so good at washing dishes. Like the way you wash them
Amen.
dishes, you are
Amen.
so fit for that job.
This is because it's here. Not it's not.
So for us, the expectation, like I said, I was so okay by myself that I didn't really have a high expectation of marriage, right? I was getting married because I love her, right? And but my bar wasn't like really high. And now here's the thing though, it's affected us because you can talk about it in a second. Is because I'm so okay by myself. I don't really need anything. Right. I love Alicia, and I know that she adds to my life. Right. Because if it wasn't for her, I'm all go. Right. I'm. It's a constant sprint. Right. And she's the one that's like, hey, like stop for a second. Relax. It's okay. Take a breath. Right. And I'm like, no. Okay, fine. Right.
I can actually
so
relate to that.
She balances me out in that sense. But I didn't have an expectation of like marriage or stuff like that because I was just so fine by myself.
Right.
I think adapting to each other is part of the process.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, fine. So I can relate to that because with me and her, there's a simple thing that I'll come to the kitchen to get something to eat, but I'll only serve myself and not serve her. So she'll tell me something and be like, oh, you wasn't thinking about me? I'll be like, and I'm legit, I'm not. Like, I'm being honest. Like, I'm not. I'm literally like, I'm so used to being by myself also that there's certain ways that flushes out. So I'll sit there and go, and then she's just like, oh, well, you're not thinking about me. And I'm like, you're absolutely right. I wasn't.
The other side of that coin in our marriage is that, so my expectations weren't high, right? It is what it is. But because I am so okay by myself, what it's caused in my marriage is that she's like, am I doing okay as a wife?
Right.
Because you don't,
Yeah.
I don't really like get feedback, right? And so that's a conscious effort from my part now, and I'm working on it. All right, so but it's that I have to take into account like, baby, you're doing a good job. Like, don't and she'll be like, what can I do?
I'm gonna cry.
What can I do? But what can I do better as a wife? Like, how am I doing as a wife? So this goes out to all the dudes listening that are married or that are going to be married. You gotta reinforce your wife and let her know, baby, you're doing a good job. I love you. You're like, I can't ask for more because you do enough.
Yes.
You are enough.
Yeah.
You know.
So part of the struggle on that is that, and if you're currently dating and you haven't taken a love language test, take a love language test. I swear by those tests. I love it. I don't know if you guys have done it.
We have done it. Yeah.
But
What's
Pedro,
yours?
I forgot. I think it's
his is acts of service.
acts of service. That's what it was.
He is acts of service.
And physical touch, I think.
Physical touch is the second or third one.
Yeah.
And
Acts of
quality
service is
time.
Yeah.
Mine was quality time, acts of service, and physical touch. We have our first two like inverted,
Yeah.
and our third is the same.
Yeah.
For us, so hers is physical touch. 1,000%. That one leads the way by a mile. For me, physical touch is literally the last one on my list.
Yeah.
Right? And all of my results came back like really like within points of each other,
Like, they
except
were-
for physical touch.
so they were
That
all
was on
low.
the floor.
So they were all low, and then as they were all low, physical touch was even lower.
Yeah.
Right?
So the one that stood out on mine, if I remember, was acts of service also. But it's been a struggle for us because I don't identify with a love language, right?
Wow.
So I can't. So she asked me, it's like, how do I love you? How, or not how do I, because I know she loves me, but how can I show you
Right.
I
that
love
I
you.
love you?
Right.
Love that.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, baby, I honestly I don't have just keep doing you, boo boo. Like
Right.
Yeah.
you're doing good.
Right.
Like don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Don't
it's,
worry about it, sweetheart. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. But no.
But it's hard because it goes back to what he said. How do I know that I'm being a good enough wife?
Mm-hmm.
When I ask him, hey, can I do this for you? Now I got it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
do you think you lean on his validation
1,000%.
a lot?
1,000%. Like, because I don't have and I don't want to call it like a scale, because I don't have some type of like measuring tape to see
Right.
how I'm doing. I have to wait on him to tell me like, hey, you're doing good.
Right.
and that's why
Or thank you for doing
Yeah.
this, you know, like that
Yeah.
that validation. Because if it's not for that, I don't know if I'm doing okay or not.
Yeah.
I know when I'm not doing okay because we argue,
Right.
you know.
Of course. Right.
But when I'm doing a good job, I don't know that I'm doing a good job unless he says it,
Yeah.
you know. And it's not
Yeah.
that I need it, right? But I need it to kind of gauge where I am.
Yeah.
So can I suggest something?
Go
ahead.
for it.
And I think more so in our relationship because I don't identify with a love language that I have to be more intentional with letting her know that
Right.
you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
But it doesn't come naturally.
It does
That's what you're saying. And I feel that. So my suggestion was going to be, is kind of what I do with her, which is, and it doesn't happen every night, but I try to make it every night, is just sort of like a check-in. Like
It's
a powwow.
check-ins.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You just be like, yo, like, you good? You know? And
You
it
good,
legit
shorty?
starts out like that. Like, I'm just like, yo, you good? And just, you know, constantly. And I think for women in general, so you guys kind of need that validation from us, because that taps into the emotional aspect of how you guys are. But what I would say to most women to act towards their significant others is ask questions.
Right.
Because it doesn't flow naturally from us. Like me, I've gotten more adaptive to it, but because I practiced. It didn't come natural to me either. But I've just practiced it so
It's
hard.
about practice.
And I just put it, I just do it. And now it's out of habit that I do it. But it's not within me to do it. It's just habitual at this point. So that's the only thing I would say. Maybe do some powwows at night.
Well,
That's a good
there was
suggestion.
a podcast that we listened to from the Perrys that
Yeah.
was with they joined in with the Fabians. They minister at different marriage conferences, and one of the things that they said that they do, I don't remember how often they do it, maybe like once a week type of thing, is they ask each other, how's your love tank?
Right.
I'm on empty. Or not,
Wow.
I'm overflowing. I could use some space right now.
Right.
Because that, I know it's not a love language, but his love language is me giving him space.
Right.
I know that sounds bad.
No, but not all the time.
No.
It's probably just
It's
certain
like-
times.
Yeah.
When he comes home from work, he doesn't want to be touched. Like, he'll come say hi, give me a kiss, and he's like, just leave
I
me
can
alone.
relate to
He's
that.
overstimulated.
He's
throughout the day.
overstimulated.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And I get
And
that.
so-
I get that.
There's days I'll do it to annoy him, and I'll be all over him, and then I'll give him his space.
It's really funny because like I literally come home and I'll lay down in bed. I'll say hi to Alicia and stuff, but I'll go lay down in bed and I just need like 10 minutes just of like
Peace and quiet.
decompressing, right? Just like just me.
I decompress in the car before I
Yeah.
come in. I literally stay in the
Well, you
car
got kids, though. It's a
about
little...
10-15 minutes, and I just stay in the car and I pray,
Yeah.
I listen to worship, I do something to decompress, and then I come in and I'm like,
Okay.
Yeah,
round two,
yeah.
you know?
And so I need that time, and it's funny because most of the time, she'll be fine. She'll let me have my 10 minutes, but there's days where she'll be like this, counting the minutes.
9:44,
Right.
9:45,
And I
Literally.
And it doesn't bother me because like, all right, I get it. But I
It's
just
like,
close
you
my
got 1
eyes.
minute left.
I just close my eyes. I just finish my decompression, and she'll be like, "Time's up." I'm like, okay. And I put my arm out, put my arm around her, but yeah, I mean that is my love language, which is weird, but I'm still trying to figure mine out. Really,
No, it's interesting that you say that, because it is a common guy theme, but even, I don't know, I don't know if it's common, but even, I don't know, I don't know if it's common, but even, 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 I don't know if it's common, but even even within that, there's still sort of a love language that sort of stands out most of the
Right.
time. You know what I'm saying? So maybe yours is like semi solidarity, and
Like if you
yeah,
ask him
it's-
for each love language, he's got an excuse. Can I do something for you? Nah, I got it. Babe, can I buy you these pants? I don't need any clothes.
Right.
I'm not a.
Like he's got a rebuttal for every single one of them. And I'm like, God, what now?
But the thing is, so I mean, these tests and stuff like that, I don't see them as universal in the first place. I don't see it as this test is a one size fits all. So you might
guides,
be,
you know what I mean?
it's a guide.
Yeah.
So I think you might be an anomaly within this test, that this test just doesn't kind of fit you. But here's my question to you: regardless of any of those type of love languages or whatever, do you feel loved by Alicia?
Yeah.
Then that's all that matters to me.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't really matter. It matters. All right. These tests only help. Right.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's
So
a guidance. It's like
even if you don't fit one of the molds, as long as you're feeling the love, and as long as you are also telling her you love her. So that is the only thing. How you give your love is probably the big. Matter of fact, I would say the biggest factor is how you give your love is more important than how you receive it.
Yeah.
Right.
So if as long as you are feeling loved, it doesn't matter if you fit the mold of this test.
Now that's the other thing. I think that would we not be believers, or going back to what we were saying, like knowing that God chose us for each other.
Right.
Probably another woman in my situation would be very frustrated and very upset.
Yeah.
Because
I'm not easy to love, y'all.
Like I have to tell him what I need because it doesn't come naturally to him. I have to tell him.
Norma. Sorry, guest speaker Norma. Sorry.
I have to tell him, baby, I make caricia, rub my arm,
But
or
I-
play with my hair.
But I think that's a common thing with men, because I sometimes have this short-lived expectation of like an action or something that I want Sean to do.
Right.
And he tells me, he's like, I can't read your mind. I don't know what your special need is today.
Right.
I don't know that today you had a tough day at work and you just need silence or that you need physical touch.
Right.
And so we, as much as the same level of expectancy that we have of them showing to us, I feel is the same level of expectancy that they have of us, for us to tell them what our need is. And I think as women, and this happens, I think a lot, understand us and they're just gonna do right because they should know.
Right.
They don't know.
And that's why
we don't know.
We don't
You
know.
don't know.
We do not
We
know.
don't.
And
No.
that's why I said that I tell him what I need, because I feel like, and I could be wrong, but I feel like a lot of women don't want to tell men what they need. They want to expect that out of him. And so you set yourself up for failure. You set yourself up for disappointment.
Yeah.
So I'll tell him. He knows when I've had a bad day. I'll text him, babe, I had a really bad day, or hey, I'm really not feeling well. I don't feel like cooking. Can we please order food?
Yeah.
I will let him know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I don't want him to know, well, you didn't tell me.
Right.
I didn't know that you were feeling like this. I don't want that to be an excuse.
Right.
Yeah.
So I probably over communicate, but I do it because
That's
I know
how you communicate.
it's not natural to him.
Yeah.
So I feel like I gotta cover me and him in the communication, almost, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
I think that's healthy. I think that's balance. And as long as you don't feel over communicated to, then it's fine. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And maybe that will help intrude into your solidarity. You know what I'm saying? So maybe it kind of cuts the wall down because she's like telling you so much. I think that's healthy. I think that's actually a good thing.
I think that we've had such a good conversation.
It's been really good.
And this is our time. Like, we're at the end of our time. I do want to finish this this podcast today with like a prayer. I would love if one of you guys would pray. pray not just for like marriages, but pray for like single
Yeah.
brothers and sisters, um, to have what they need spiritually, to have a good relationship with Jesus first before they seek marriage, to be fully filled by Christ before seeking marriage. Because we did notice that a lot yesterday in the conference. So many young people had so many questions about how to choose the right spouse. So we know it's in the hearts and it's in the minds of our youth, and they care.
Yeah.
They really care. They're asking the questions because they care.
Yeah.
And they want to make the right choices. A lot of them want to break generational curses of divorce in their family. A lot of them want to break generational curses. And I don't know if that's the right, correct word to use, but in a sense, it is. If
It is.
you know, if you have tons of family members and everybody has always had a divorce, you want it to stop with you,
Right.
but not by our own strength, but by the strength of God.
Amen.
So, unless you have something to add, like I really want us just to pray us out.
Yeah.
If you guys would mind.
You want me to do it? I got you. God, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the liberties that you give us within you. But also thank you for your restrictions, Father. Thank you for everything that you provide for us, because you are the ultimate provider. You are the ultimate provision. You give us everything we need, even when we don't know it is being provided for. We only seem to not understand the timing, Father. But give us the patience, give us the know-how, give us everything we need to walk through this journey with joy and peace in our heart, knowing that you are behind us, so that when we fall, you are in front of us to guide our future, that you're just all around us, Jesus. And I want to come interceding first on behalf of single people. May I pray that they use this time to find who you are, because this is the most limited distraction, time-filled slot they will ever have in their life. Singleness is a blessing. Singleness is a huge blessing, my God. So please, may they understand that being single is a blessing. They do not need a partner to fulfill them. They do not need a partner to walk in their purpose. They do not need a partner to be witness to. They don't even need a partner to reach your feet, God. They don't need a partner for anything. It'll only be complimentary once they get one, God, but they do not need one. May they use this time truly to fall at your feet and understand all the characteristics of who you are, my God. And I want to pray for the married people too. Father, please give us fortitude, my God. Give us know-how. Give us patience. And I'm talking about that patience that passes all understanding, that we are just peaceful in the midst of true storms. Because sometimes when we're fighting with our spouses, it feels like the world is ending. It really feels like that, at least to me sometimes. So please, God, give us the peace through all of these storms, and make us one for you. Make us one for you, God. Please guide everybody who is listening to this podcast to figure out their stance and who you are, exactly where they're at. And ultimately, it is all about you, Father, throughout our entire life, from birth to the grave. Father, you already give us what we need, Father. May we be great stewards of what you place in front of us, Father. In your name we pray. Amen.
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 Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll catch you at the next one.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.